Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is a video series that I've been meaning to do for a long time. I'm going to be spotlighting my collection of what I have up to this point anyway, of the magazine known as the Beatles book, otherwise called the Beatles Monthly book. And this is a really wonderful fan magazine that came out in 1963 and continued in various forms all the way up until 2003. So there are many issues to be enjoyed here. Uh, Great articles, great vintage 60s information at the time that it actually was new, when it first came out. And then later on, it was kind of like a revival of sorts. And I'll give you a little history. First published in August of 63, there were 77 editions of the Beatles monthly book. And the first run went from 1963 to December 1969. Then it was revived in 1976 and finally ceased altogether in 2003. What happened was in 1963, there was a publisher. His name was Sean O'Mahony, and he had heard the Please Please Me song and decided that he wanted to do a magazine devoted just to the Beatles. So he asked manager Brian Epstein if it was okay. Epstein approved, and the Beatles themselves approved. And O'Mahony started editing the magazine. He called himself Johnny Dean in the editorials. You can always see in these early issues there. This one here, you see 1965, signs it Johnny Dean, editor. At the bottom now. The magazine photographer was Leslie Bryce, and they would have unrivaled access to the group throughout the 1960s, so they could get all kinds of places and take photos that were really, by today's standards and what you've seen, rare and seldom seen stuff. So traveling the world, taking thousands of photographs. Well, what happened was, after the magazine stopped in 1969, the original run, O'Mahony republished all 77 issues in 1976. They were reprinted. And they would also include not only the reprints of the original magazine as it was, but there'd be like anywhere from 8 to 16 pages of new news, up-to-date news for the time with Beatles projects and stuff like that, articles and things. Then in September of 1982, which ironically was right around the release anniversary of Love Me Do, the magazine started up again, and there would be all kinds of new stuff, new exploits of the ex-Beatles from 82 until they finally ceased altogether in 2003. So that's a little bit of a history for that. And so what I'm going to do here, I figure I'm going to make this into multiple installments. I'm not going to show you everything I have in one. I will also say that I do not have every issue. I wish I did. I think these are really worth having for almost any Beatles fan because, as I say, aside from really good articles, the purpose here on this videos are going to be to show you the photos, because the photos are so amazing, and a lot of them, I'm telling you, you've probably never seen before or seldom seen anywhere else. And that was the real, I guess, perk that this has, this magazine. It was the real, ace in the cap, so to speak, feather in the cap. That's what I'm looking for. So not all of these are originals. I think this batch that I'm going to show today in this video may all be original issues. But let's just have some fun looking at some of the photos, because you can't really delve into the articles and read articles here. That would be much fun, me just reading out of a magazine to you. So I'm going to try to show you a sampler. Okay, here's the one from December 1965, issue number 29. Front, beautiful shot of John, and a really cool shot of George in the back. There are so many great photos. You could easily spend an hour on each magazine if you really wanted to take your time. Or not an hour, but a good 20 minutes at any rate. You can see a newsletter from 65 updating you what's going on. I mean, these are like really, great intimate shots of the group. Think up a title for a Beatles LP. Imagine that. There was a time that you could actually write in and think up a title. Maybe your title will be used for the newest Beatles LP coming up. Because we look at everything now so many decades removed, you know. I'm going to like spotlight from each one of these the exceptional photos. Yeah, I'm sure, you know, Beatles fans are going to like these. To say, I'd like to really get an entire run of this. Here's a centerfold for you Paul fans. Because these are really worth having, all of them, complete. I really would love to do that. There's Ringo driving. How many times do you see Ringo driving, huh? I mean, you know, that's the kind of really important stuff you get here on this channel. You know, you don't get this anywhere else, Ringo driving. So, all right, this is all one issue only, so it just goes to show you we get a lot of stuff to peruse as we go along. All right, so that's that one. Here's issue number 42, January 1967, this says. Little could everybody know at the time, you know, what they were going to have in store with the Sgt. Pepper album. All right. Here's a really good Evans photo of Mal Evans, friend and roadie, giving Paul a light. It's an early shot, Paul. And there's the boys giving their opinion of John's book in his own right. Fun pictures. And look at this. Was George Harrison a fan of James Bond? What do you think? Well, he did mention James Bond in a TV show. I know that. I think it was Ready, Steady, Go from 1964. You can see why I'm going to have to make quite a number of videos on this because I can't show them all. Let's look at the centerfold here, huh? Ringo. All right. Skip ahead. Yeah, it's always a treat to see Ringo playing his guitar, you know, with the limited amount of chords that he says he knows. And here's Mal's page, a special report by Mal Evans, who went on safari with Paul. Mal talking about his vacation, hanging out with Paul. All right. And finally, picture of John. I think that was from Not Only, But Also. I noticed a lot of these magazines at the time I bought them have John on the cover. You know, because, you know, John's my favorite Beatle, so a lot of times I'd buy the issues with him on the cover. Now you're talking about May 1967. So, I mean, you know, how often do you see pictures of the Beatles in the studio for like Sgt. Pepper and, you know, at that era? Not very often. That's why these are so invaluable. Here's Georgia working on The Inner Light, or no, probably Within You Without You. I'm sorry. Working on Within You Without You, I believe. And at this time, what's amazing is, you know, you don't really know what the albums are going to be. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is not released yet. So, you know, this is really a treat. I mean, look at this. Look at these group shots of them working together. Look at that. Okay. We got another Ringo centerfold. Mr. Richard Starkey. And here's a cool shot of George. I like this shot of George. And we have George Martin and Paul, ever the great team working together. Still called George Martin the fifth Beatle, bar none. He is as integral a part of their recording process as the Beatles themselves. John and George, Paul. Really good shots. Really nice. Here's Ringo at the piano. You don't get many in-studio shots outside of here. You really don't. Okay. Well, I only went through 3. I thought I'd get through at least 10 of these, but I don't want them to be too long. So I'm going to show one more. Let's see if I could maybe mix it up a little bit. This is one from, let's see. I'll keep the same period. Number 56, March 1968. So you're just about a year later, right? Give or take. I'm skipping through the best shots. Recording in India. I remember this is all like news at the time. This is the Beatles going through the end scene for the Yellow Submarine animated feature, doing their little cameo, going through it. This is really a great shot. Paul and Ringo together at the drums. Centerfold time, Paul. And Beatles having some fun doing this scene at the end of the Yellow Submarine movie. I think what I'm going to do after this is go for one more good picture together of John and George, and a good picture here with Paul. I think I will do one more. Let's just go one more. Bring this to around 15 minutes. This is number 50. We're back to 1967, and we got Paul. Oh, I thought Paul was on the cover. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, John and Julian. What do you know? A picture of John and Julian in 1967. I thought that John never saw Julian, but anyway, here we go. Looks like there were a lot of pictures of John with Julian in 65, 67, 68, 69. 71, 73, 74. Well, you get the idea. Okay, September 1967. This will be the last one we'll go through. Look at that shot. I mean, as I'm going through this, I just keep thinking about what I've said. I mean, how in the world could people not have these photos? I mean, these, you don't see studio shots of the Beatles, especially from this particular era. There's John, off to do How I Won the War. All of this, news stuff at the time. Not old hat, but there's John doing the movie with director Richard Lester, who did A Hard Day's Night and Help. You got a Ringo centerfold again. All right. Okay, this is a nice shot. All right, so we're going to wind up this particular video here. What is this a picture of? Look at the way out gear that the fifth Beatle is wearing above. Interesting newspaper headline: China War of Hatred. And last picture. This is a pretty suitable. This won't be the last picture, but it'll be one of them. Ringo and his wife Maureen with their son, I presume Zach. And look at that. That's the drummer for the Who, folks. Zach Starkey. Oh, second baby. Oops, my mistake. That's the edit cut. I'm reading it. A very special pic of the Star family taken just before the birth. You know it is. Oh my God! It is Zach Starkey. I mean, come on, that's Zach's face. You can't. I'm right. It said the picture was taken just before the birth of Ringo and Maureen's second baby, so it is the first baby. Whew. Thank God for that. All right, we're going to kind of end it here. Thank you everybody for watching. And there are going to be a lot more of these if you're interested. Let me know in the comments what you thought, if you enjoyed this or not. And we'll do more in the series.